More than 22 million individuals have now witnessed the precise instant when Jasmine Crockett confronted Nancy Mace in a fierce congressional session addressing white privilege. It transcended mere political drama. It became personal when Mace stared directly at Jasmine and declared, "You folks are constantly stirring up issues." The chamber fell silent. Crockett didn't shout. She deconstructed Mace's words with composed, piercing sentences, one by one. Because when a congresswoman utters "you folks" on live television, it forces you to question who is included in America's we and who is excluded. More crucially, what unfolds when someone dares to respond? Stay tuned. This narrative deserves every moment of your attention. The session commenced, the atmosphere taut. No war was officially announced, but it had already ignited. The Capitol's hearing room had endured decades of disputes, some murmured, others bellowed. Today, it was both. From the outside, it appeared as just another routine gathering of the House Oversight Committee, but within, the tension sparked like a live wire. The stated agenda was straightforward, a discussion on federal funding for racial equity initiatives in public schools. Yet everyone present knew the truth. This wasn't about budget details or policy documents. It was about which vision of America would be permitted to thrive in classrooms. At one side of the discussion, Representative Nancy Mace sat with the confidence of someone accustomed to the spotlight. Her folder was pristine, color-coded, and meticulously placed next to a chilled water bottle. She wore a flawless white blazer, the visual symbolism deliberate. She had crafted her image as someone sharp enough to strike yet polished enough to dodge criticism. As the gavel fell, she leaned into the microphone with surgical accuracy, her voice slicing like a blade through tender flesh. "Let me be unequivocal," she began, her tone crisp, assured, and calculated. "What's being peddled to our youth as progress is actually venom. Critical race theory doesn't impart knowledge. It breeds bitterness. It doesn't foster unity. It sows discord. It tells white children they're destined to oppress and black children they're fated to be oppressed. That's not education. That's not America." A few nods of approval rippled from her allies. The camera's red light glowed. She wasn't just addressing the committee, she was speaking to voters, to media hosts, to history itself, attempting to reshape it. Representative Jasmine Crockett remained still, seated 2 chairs away, legs crossed, pen motionless, lips set in a straight line. She contrasted sharply with Mace's curated presence. A daughter of the South, a civil rights lawyer turned congresswoman, her hair was tightly braided, her expression even tighter. Her posture radiated resilience. "I've faced worse than this room can throw." Yet her stillness wasn't submission, it was coiled energy, waiting. Mace brandished a highlighted document like evidence in a trial. "This," she snapped, "was discovered in a middle school curriculum funded by federal equity dollars. It claims capitalism was founded on slavery, that police disproportionately target minorities, and that America's founding documents are steeped in white supremacy." She paused. "This is a taxpayer-funded guilt campaign meant to shame white children for actions they didn't commit." Another pause, deliberate and prolonged. "When did education abandon math and science to become a stage for punishing kids based on their skin color?" Her words lingered, aimed with precision. Across the room, Jasmine Crockett didn't flinch, but something ignited within her, not fury, not yet, but something ancient and profound. It wasn't just the falsehood that stung, it was the ease with which it was uttered, the confidence in Mace's tone that her words would be met with agreement, not accountability. That was privilege, the stage on which this entire hearing played out. Jasmine leaned back slightly, arms crossed, eyes locked on Mace. She'd seen this script before, in courtrooms, faculty meetings, Sunday school discussions. Always the same: erase the pain, protect the pride. Mace pressed on, her voice rising like a rehearsed closing argument, honed by polls, not principles. "If we truly care about children, black, white, or otherwise, we must stop teaching them America is flawed. We must teach them to rise, not resent. We must stop wasting federal funds on divisive lessons and invest in what unites us." Polite applause followed from her side. Her smile was subtle, triumphant. She thought she'd claimed the room. But Jasmine Crockett wasn't applauding. She wasn't even blinking. When someone builds a platform on rewritten history, it takes just one voice armed with truth to dismantle it. As the room settled, pens dropping and shoulders relaxing, Mace leaned forward, smiling, and delivered the line that would ignite everything. She didn't shout, she didn't need to. Her words landed like a velvet-wrapped missile. "You folks always act like America owes you something. Maybe if you stopped blaming white privilege and worked harder, we wouldn't be in this mess." There it was, not a subtle dog whistle, but a blaring siren. The chamber froze. Papers stopped rustling. The air vanished, replaced by something colder. Jasmine didn't flinch, but her pen stilled. Her spine straightened. Her eyes lifted from her notepad like a storm breaking the horizon. "Excuse me," she said, her voice low, dangerously steady. "Did you just say you folks?" No gasps, just darting glances aide to aide, staffer to staffer. Everyone knew they'd entered treacherous territory. Mace didn't back down or rephrase. She smiled, shrugged, and doubled down. Yes, you folks are always causing trouble. A pen fell, a chair creaked, and 8 inhaled sharply. The chairwoman didn't speak, but her glance toward the Democratic bench said it all. Brace yourselves. Jasmine didn't react, she absorbed. This wasn't silence, it was the calm before thunder. Her eyes locked on Mace, hands still folded, but something seismic stirred behind her calm. Not anger, memory. The kind that doesn't fade but burrows deeper. Being followed in stores, hearing car locks click as she passed, being told to smile more in meetings, being called so articulate as if it were surprising, hearing you folks 4 years, just never on camera, never in Congress. Then she spoke, her voice steady, not fiery, but steel. If my folks are always causing trouble, Congresswoman, why are we always the ones handcuffed, denied, undervalued, underpaid? She didn't shout. Each word was a blade, drawn slowly, each sharper than the last. The room didn't erupt, it froze. Mace leaned back, unsure whether to interrupt or ignore. But there was no ignoring what had been said, carrying generations of restrained fury. No one moved, whispered, or checked their phones. The moment teetered on a knife's edge. Jasmine hadn't just countered a slur, she'd turned it into a mirror, forcing the room to look. The silence lingered like a blade. Then Jasmine moved, not dramatically, but with the grace of someone who'd been here before. Her hand slid to the desk, her pen clicking faintly against the wood. She didn't look down or breathe differently, she let the moment settle, then cracked it open. Her voice, low and precise, landed like thunder without volume. It's time we stop pretending, she said, pausing just long enough to halt every blink. It's time to discuss what makes many uncomfortable, something some claim isn't real because they've never lived it. Her eyes stayed on Mace, but her words reached beyond her, to every similar room. It's called privilege. The word landed like a gavel. The truth is, some never see what others endure, not because it's absent, but because it doesn't touch them. The air shifted, lighter in some corners, heavier in others. Her voice never rose, but it coiled with power, like a storm whispering before it strikes. Privilege is saying you folks without grasping its weight. It's believing you're stating truth when you're revealing you've never questioned your place in this nation. She paused briefly. So let's be candid. Let's address what happens when history is rewritten, when people feel guilty for seeing truth, when comfort trumps fairness. The silence held, not because they agreed, but because they were witnessing an undeniable truth. Her calm certainty was more unsettling than fury. Jasmine didn't reach for outrage. She reached for proof, because feelings can be dismissed, but facts expose cracks. Facts don't care who's offended, she said, leaning forward with surgical clarity. She opened a slim folder, sliding out pages like evidence at a crime scene. Her hands didn't shake. Her tone didn't waver. The atmosphere shifted, like the hush before lightning. This was no longer a speech, it was a cross-examination, with the nation as the jury. Let's start with schools, she said steadily. A 14-year-old white student in Missouri brought a loaded handgun to school, not a toy, a real gun. He got a 5-day suspension, no charges, handled internally, no police, no record. A 12-year-old black student in Florida brought a plastic water gun, a toy. He was tackled by security, police called, handcuffed in front of classmates, flagged in the juvenile justice system. The words fell like stones, heavy, clear. Same country, different outcomes. For what? Skin color. That's not discipline, it's a message. She turned a page. Now the job market. 2 resumes, same degree, GPA, internships, experience. One named Josh Miller, the other Deshon Williams. The names hung like a challenge. Josh got a 46% callback rate, Deshon 14%, not because he was less qualified, but because someone judged the name before the interview. Silence deepened, even the chairs stopped shifting. And housing, she continued, sliding another page forward. A black family in Cincinnati had their home appraised at $110,000. They removed family photos, African art, books on black history, and had a white friend pose as the owner. Same house, same neighborhood, same furniture, second appraisal, $160,000. That's $150,000 difference for skin tone. The room wasn't just quiet, it was tense, the kind of stillness no one dared break. Her voice softened, not weak but sharper. Privilege is believing that's not real because it's never happened to you. It's hearing these stories and asking, are you sure it's about race? That's not curiosity, it's avoidance. She looked at the elected officials, lawyers, staffers, those with the power to pretend this wasn't systemic. For some, racism is a debate, a theory. For us, it's daily life. And when we speak, we're told we're imagining it. The silence was thick, indicting. If you need more proof, I have it, but you already know. She let the silence stand, not because she was done, but because she'd said what needed hearing. As her words cut through, not everyone was ready to absorb them, especially not Mace. Some truths provoke. Mace shifted forward, her voice jagged, rushed, slicing the tension. That's not fair, she snapped, trying to reclaim control. But the chairwoman's gavel tapped sharply. Congresswoman Mace, you'll have your chance. It's Representative Crockett's time. A hush fell, not relief, but respect, or perhaps fear of what might follow. No one expected this black woman in a dark suit, with calm eyes, to seize the hearing without raising her voice. But she had, commanding not just attention but the room itself. Mace clenched her jaw, leaned back, visibly agitated but silent. The energy had shifted, all eyes were on Jasmine. She didn't gloat. She adjusted her mic slightly, took a breath that gathered every dismissal she'd faced, and leaned in. The floor was hers, and she knew its power. She pulled out a stapled document, her hands steady, not nervous, but focused, carrying years of data in her bones. She laid it gently on the table, turned it toward the committee, and spoke with precision that cut deeper than anger. This is a U.S. Department of Justice report from last year, not a blog, not a flyer, your government's record of truths some refuse to hear. Each word dismantled denial. Black Americans are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by police than white Americans. That's not a feeling or a theory, it's a statistic. She scanned the room, demanding accountability. Even unarmed, even non-resisting, even fleeing, the pattern holds. One group gets hesitation, the other gets bullets. She continued, sentencing, same crime, same substances, same histories. But if you're black or Latino, your sentence is, on average, 30% longer than a white person's. She tapped the document lightly, not for emphasis, but to anchor it as undeniable. Remove race from applications, transcripts, parole papers, it still shapes the outcome. The room was uncomfortably still, her words unignorable. White privilege doesn't mean white people never struggle or earn their way. It's not the privilege to never err, it's the privilege to be forgiven when you do. Her words were unrelenting, like water eroding stone. It's being seen as a person, not a problem, getting a second chance, a soft voice instead of a raised weapon. A few staffers exchanged glances. One aide bit his cheek, another stopped mid-scribble. Jasmine pressed on, slow, lethal. Privilege is a white teenager with pills sent to rehab, while a black teenager with the same pills goes to prison. It's one parent hearing, let's get your son back on track, and another hearing, your kid's a threat. Her hand rested on the document, anchoring her. The numbers don't lie, but we pretend they don't matter because they don't hurt you. Her eyes, tired but sharp, held the room. Privilege is not about doing wrong, it's about recovering from it, surviving it, being seen as human after failing. She paused, letting the truth root. We all make mistakes, but only some get to recover. The silence was heavy with recognition. The facts were mirrors, forcing reflection. Jasmine hadn't stormed out or cried, she'd left the room feeling scorched by a quiet fire. And beyond those marble walls, the world was listening. When the clip hit the internet under 2 minutes, unedited, it exploded. Her words, white privilege isn't about being right, it's about being forgiven when you're wrong, didn't just trend, they haunted. By adjournment, the video had 1 million views. By morning, it topped YouTube, not an ad or music video, but a raw congressional moment. In a Missouri diner, a truck driver named Kevin, after 14 hours on the road, sipped coffee and scrolled his phone. He wasn't into politics, but a headline stopped him. Congresswoman drops truth on white privilege, silences room. He watched, then re-watched. The resume names, Josh and Deshon, hit him hard. For the first time, he muttered, I'm white. I never thought about it. Now I do. In a Tulsa classroom, a teacher scrapped her First Amendment lesson to play the clip. A 15-year-old black student asked, if they call her you people, what do they call me? The question answered itself. In Georgia, a retired firefighter, lifelong Republican, replayed, it's not about who suffers, it's about who survives mistakes. He recalled a black kid jailed for shoplifting, while a white kid got a warning. Clarity, not guilt, settled in. He texted his son, watch this. We all need to. Across kitchens, laundromats, and waiting rooms, the clip played on. It wasn't loud, but people leaned in. In Detroit, a mother texted her sister. She said what we've always said, now they're hearing it. In Idaho, a counselor cried alone. In New York, a subway musician whispered Jasmine's name. The clip wasn't just viral, it was personal. Jasmine didn't know yet. Her phone buzzed endlessly with emails, threats, and thanks. Most were gratitude. Thank you for not blinking. The ripple spread, not a crashing wave, but a steady pulse, changing one mind at a time. Nancy Mace, however, went silent for 7 days, no tweets, no press releases. Her team dodged with no comment as reporters camped outside her South Carolina office, asking, do you regret saying you people? Her silence wasn't strategy, it was retreat. Allies scrambled, claiming she was misunderstood or blaming political theater. But nothing drowned out Jasmine's voice or the echo of Mace's words. Inside the Capitol, Mace became radioactive. Even supporters flinched, she'd lost the narrative. Jasmine stayed quiet too, no interviews, no victory laps. She posted one black and white photo, her standing in the hearing room, eyes locked on the camera, committee blurred behind her. It went viral in an hour, dubbed the stare heard around the world. She didn't chase the noise, it chased her. Meanwhile, Mace watched from behind her blinds as the clip haunted her. She drafted tweets I was misunderstood, but deleted them. Protesters outside her office held mirrors with "look again" scrawled on them. She'd underestimated what one woman with facts and a steady voice could do. Days later, Jasmine stood in a Dallas community center. No podium, just a mic. The room was packed, teachers, students, parents, veterans. Some wore shirts saying, "Truth isn't divisive, it's uncomfortable." She didn't seek virality, she said, but to speak plainly. Sometimes, the strongest thing a black woman can do is stand still and not blink. Her words weren't new, they'd been whispered in kitchens and churches. What changed was that the world heard. America doesn't need to apologize for white privilege, she said, but it must see it, name it, and move past it together. The applause wasn't loud, it was deep, a recognition of change. The country reacted. Her quote, "America doesn't need to apologize for white privilege, it needs to see it," hit every news cycle. Progressives called it historic. Conservatives labeled it divisive. Hashtags like hashtag stand with Crockett and hashtag privilege is real clashed with hashtag stop Crockett. Newsrooms scrambled for her, but she declined. Her team's statement, she said what needed saying. On Capitol Hill, backlash grew. A censure resolution called her remarks inflammatory. But in classrooms and churches, her words sparked discussions. Teachers used her speech for assignments. Parents formed reading groups. She hadn't spoken for gain, she'd spoken from experience. Threats came too, anonymous messages warning her to stop. Her team reported them to the FBI. At CNN, a Sunday feature asked, "Is this a viral moment or a turning point?" Late in Texas, Jasmine sat in her kitchen, ignoring interview requests. A letter from a 13-year-old in Mississippi, "You made me feel real," mattered more. Her mother's words echoed, "Say something true enough to make them go silent." Truth had a price, solitude, security details. But she wasn't alone anymore. 3 months later, the noise faded, but the impact grew. In a Virginia library, Jasmine spoke to teens, no cameras, just stories. A white student asked, "Why is this dangerous?" She replied, "Truth shakes things people can't control." In Kansas City, a police chief reviewed stop and frisk protocols after her words. Letters poured into her office from across the country, including one from a Maine judge, "You reminded me how to be useful." Her bills gained traction. Colleagues whispered she scared them because she didn't flinch. Threats persisted, a noose on her car in Phoenix, but so did the seeds she'd planted. A Pennsylvania teacher framed her words, a Mississippi girl started a podcast, a Georgia pastor shifted his sermon. At her mother's Dallas church, an elder handed her a laminated card with her quote, "You don't fix a thing by ignoring it." Jasmine didn't cry, she nodded. The moment had passed, but the movement had begun, not with fireworks, but with a question. What kind of people are we if we look away? Injustice isn't always loud, sometimes it's a smiling badge or silent armor. Jasmine didn't flinch, carrying every stare, every doubt. She didn't ask to be a symbol, but she carried the weight of a nation's denial, speaking truth that demanded consequences. The real courage was in the quiet after, the burden of truth-telling. She lifted it not for herself, but so others could see, a student in Oklahoma, a trucker in Missouri, a nation remembering itself. The fight isn't between parties, it's between those who face the mirror and those who don't. White privilege isn't about ease, it's about grace where others face judgment. Its truth stings because we already knew it. Courage looks different when it's not performative. Justice wears exhaustion and resolve. The next Jasmine Crockett might be a student wondering if her truth will be heard. The story's ending depends on us, those who heard her, and chose what to do next. Thank you for staying with this journey for justice. Your support matters. Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. What moved you most?